Close your eyes for a moment and listen to me. Southern Italy's dry summer heat makes speaking feel like trying to breathe through dust. The horizon is flat, so flat it almost looks unreal. And beyond the yellowed heads of wheat, you can catch the glint of a river bending like a pale ribbon, the Aufidus, today's Ofanto. It is here on this plain, Apulia, on the banks of the Aufidus before Cannae, that Rome's overwhelmingly large army believes it will crush us in a single blow. What you are about to hear is not only one day of clashing steel, it is the march toward that day, the smell of the camps, the way terrain is read like a text, and the silence that remains after the shouting stops. Because Cannae was not merely a set-piece battle. It was a knot of geography, wind, discipline, and human nerve pulled tight at once. I will tell you this, not as if I had been there, but because I was there. If you enjoy this kind of documentary-style storytelling and you want more of it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to like the video. We truly need your support to keep bringing these stories to life. Chapter 1. The Road South. Before I can tell you Cannae, you need to understand how we came down into that plain. Hannibal's army was not a symbol on a Roman map. It was a living body, moving, feeding, bleeding, pressing its way through ridgelines, valleys, marshes, and passes, step by step. I was an Iberian infantryman. My shield was oval, my sword short, heavy, made for close work. Beside me stood tall men from Gaul, hair stiffened with lime, voices loud, charging into danger as if shouting could bend fate. Behind us were Africans, especially the Libyans, quieter, tighter in formation, disciplined in a way that felt almost cold. And on the edges, like wind made flesh, rode the Numidian cavalry, small, tough horses and riders who seemed born in the saddle. That summer, we turned toward the east of the Apennines, down into the Adriatic-facing plains of Apulia. This land is not the wet green of the north. The sun cracks the soil, the grass thins, the air is sharp and dry. The lower we descended, the more openly the wind moved, and the farther sound carried. Hannibal read the land not like a commander consulting a chart, but like a man who had grown up inside it. That ridge, that hollow, that crossing, each is a door. While we marched, he did not think only of Rome's army. He thought of Rome's veins, roads, depots, grain routes, everything that keeps a giant alive. As we drew closer to Cannae, the river changed everything. The Aufidus never truly disappears even in summer. It widens here, narrows there, leaving gravel shallows along its edges. Water means camp. Water also means a trap. When two armies stare at the same source, they are eventually forced into the same plain. Hannibal wanted that. And you must understand the soil here. Apulia is a granary. Rome relied on this region, its stores, its depots, its movement of grain. For us, those stores meant two things: food for our bellies and a message to Rome. I am here. When we pitched camp, the pegs fought the hard ground. Days were scorching, nights suddenly cool. Rations weren't always steady. Sometimes barley porridge, sometimes seized wheat, sometimes only water and stubbornness. Among the soldiers, two voices traveled from fire to fire. One was fear. Rome is too many, Rome doesn't end. The other was Hannibal's quiet confidence. A crowd, if it stands in the wrong place, collapses under its own weight. I learned to hold on to that second voice because the road to Cannae was measured not only in miles, but in the weight of doubt inside your chest. And we were tired, don't forget that. The Alps were far behind us, but their memory still sat in our bones. The icy Trebia, the mist and slaughter by Lake Trasimene. Hannibal had become a shadow Rome could not shake, but carrying that shadow meant marching every day, standing watch every night, climbing one more ridge, crossing one more dry valley. Roman towns were stone and order. Our route was often goat paths that narrowed and vanished, then widened again into open ground. A distant set of walls would appear, then disappear, replaced by bare slopes and sunburned ravines. The approach into Apulia stays in your mind like a map you can't unsee. You keep the rolling shoulders of the Apennines behind you and feel the land soften toward the sea. In summer, the grasses are yellow, olive trees sit gray-green against the sky, and low stone walls shine pale as bone. At midday, shade is scarce. The march slows, and a waterskin becomes treasure. Hannibal's officers marked every spring, every stream bed, every hidden trickle. Because sometimes an army's deadliest enemy isn't Rome, it's thirst. Inside the camp, the order was more complex than you might imagine. Each people spoke its own tongue, carried its own smells, kept its own habits. Iberians liked to turn meat over coals when we had it. Gauls grew louder if they found wine. Libyans oiled their weapons and checked shield straps in silence. Numidians circled the perimeter, hunting for tracks, feeling the land the way you feel weather in your joints. Hannibal's genius was in making these differences move as one. The same command would ripple through different languages, and still the same movement happened at the same time. As Cannae neared, the horizon stopped looking like a plain and started looking like a stage. The river would feed both armies and separate them, and there was the wind. In Apulia, a dry summer wind lifts fine dust, stings the eyes, fills the teeth and throat. Hannibal spoke of even that. Don't take the wind in your face. It sounds like a simple soldier's tip, but that simplicity was the summary of an advantage thousands of men would fail to notice until it was too late. At last we reached the area around Cannae, known for its grain stores, an old settlement and broad granaries Rome used as a supply point. Hannibal seized them and sent Rome 2 messages. First, I have come as far as the place that feeds you. Second, if you want to catch me, you must come here. And so the geography, river, depot, open plain, and that suffocating wind became part of fate. Chapter 2, the Plain of Cannae, camp, river, and wind at Cannae. There were 2 camps, and both armies knew the same truth. On this plain, stepping back is hard. We spread along one side of the river. The Romans built 2 camps opposite, one larger, one smaller. When you walk down to the Aufidus, you hear gravel clicking underwater, but just behind the bank, the wind carries dust that swallows sound. Dawn is cool. By late morning, the stones burn, leather armor grows heavy, and every strap feels like it bites deeper into your shoulders. Hannibal wasn't trying to find a battle. He was building the conditions of a battle. That's why for days we sent out scouts. Numidians measured the shallows, found where the crossing would be fastest. We infantrymen studied little rises, dry channels, wagon tracks, anything the plain tried to hide. Because where an army stands is not only a location, it's where it drinks, where it eats, where it can retreat, where it can turn. The first time I truly saw the Roman army, what struck me wasn't just its size, it was its order. From a distance, the shining shields looked like a roof stretching across the earth. Legions, allied contingents, cavalry, Rome used numbers like a weapon. That year they had two consuls. People said one was aggressive, the other cautious. Rumors like that move through camps like a wind of their own, because if Rome's commanders argue, an enemy feels the tremor. In our camp, the talk was different. Today or tomorrow? Hannibal did not rush. Evenings we sat around fires. Gauls told stories. Iberians whetted blades. Libyans stacked shields back to back in quiet lines. From Hannibal's tent, you often heard not speech, but silence. It was the silence of a plan settling into place. The Cannae plain can deceive you precisely because it is so flat. Flatness makes it seem easy for one mass to push another mass and win. Rome chose that. Pack the center, smash through us. Hannibal read the same flatness differently. In open space, cavalry matters more. When dust rises, a crowd loses orientation. With the river behind you, retreat narrows into choke points. The day before the battle, the wind hit my face again, hot, dry, full of grit. I clenched my teeth, my eyes watered. Then Hannibal's instructions passed down the line. In the morning, keep the sun and the wind at your back. A simple phrase, but it carried the weight of an advantage that once missed cannot be regained. That night, when I stood my watch, I heard the Roman camp's distant roar across the river. Iron, clanking, men shouting, orders layered on orders. It sounded like a city. I returned to our fires and stared into the coals. Something became clear inside me. Tomorrow, we wouldn't only swing swords. Tomorrow, every inch of this place, the river's bend, the wind's direction, the dust in the air, would fight beside us. Along the edge of the plain near the Cannae stores, you could see ditches and stakes. Every army builds its own small wall, trench, berm, sentry posts. Our camp had order, but it wasn't as uniform as Rome's. Different units carried different habits. Iberians leaned shields against tent poles. Gauls displayed trophies. Africans tended to hold closer to the command center. Hannibal's headquarters sat slightly back, positioned to watch the plain and the crossings. Even getting water was an operation. Some banks were steep, others gentle. In the shallows, gravel scraped your shins. In deeper places, the current could steal a skin from your hands. Numidians guarded the water lines and kept Roman scouts from slipping close, because the easiest moment to strike an army is when it's scattered fetching water. From afar, Rome's discipline was visible. Tents laid out more symmetrically, guard changes more precise, horns sharper and more official. When morning haze burned away, I watched legions drill, forming and opening shield walls, practicing javelin throws, marching in tight blocks. We trained too, but not in the same ritual. We were a fusion of styles, and Hannibal's strength was exactly there. Late afternoons, the sun turned red through dust, and scouts returned with reports. That ford, that rise, that cavalry movement. Hannibal's officers gathered this information and wove the next day's arrangement like cloth. One more thing. Sound lies to you on the Cannae plain. A horn call seems closer than it is. A hoofbeat sounds larger. At night, every snap of brush can feel like Rome is coming. I once pressed my ear to the ground. Sometimes you can sense thousands of feet through the earth itself. Vibration like distant thunder. Something heavy was approaching. I didn't know Hannibal's full plan then, but a soldier learns this. If the commander's face is calm and his orders are short and clear, tomorrow will not be an accident. It will be a design. Chapter 3. The Double Pincer. Hour by hour, at sunrise on the day of battle, Hannibal formed us up. A thin haze hovered over the flatland, and then the wind arrived, lifting dust, thinning the air until it felt like you were breathing sand. I stood in the center, in the mixed line of Iberians and Gauls. The heart of Hannibal's plan beat there, though in that moment, you don't think in terms of plan. You just see the Roman mass in front of you. The formation was this. The center was us, more flexible, more aggressive fighters. On the wings stood the Africans, Libyans in tighter order, shields and spears like a wall. Cavalry spread on both flanks, heavier horse on one side, Numidians on the other, fast, harassing, always trying to pull an enemy out of place. Hannibal shaped our center with a slight outward bulge, like a bow inviting Rome to step into it. Rome, meanwhile, gathered opposite us almost as a single body. Legions usually deploy in a broader line, but that day they deepened their formation to break us by sheer pressure. Depth increases pushing power, but it weakens the sides and makes maneuver harder. The Romans may not have felt that trade-off until it was already killing them. The battle did not begin with a rain of arrows. It began with sound, horns, shouting, shields struck with fists and weapons. Then Rome moved forward, heavy, steady, thousands of feet pounding the same earth in unison. We advanced too. As the distance closed, my breath mixed with the hot air trapped behind my shield. Dust glued itself to sweat until my face felt coated in grit. The first clash at the center was like a wave slamming into rock. Gauls surged. We Iberians tried to work close with our blades. Roman shields were hard, but their strength was not individual skill. It was the machine of men moving together. As minutes passed, what Hannibal wanted happened. We began to give ground, not in a rout, not in panic, but step by step, holding shape. That is the hardest movement in war. Instinct tells you to charge or to run. We did neither. We retreated without breaking. Rome read it as collapse. They pressed harder. Their own mass flowed inward, deeper into the space we opened. And that was the moment I saw the Africans on the wings, waiting. The Libyans held until Rome was committed, then turned inward from both sides. The movement was like doors closing. Roman soldiers suddenly realized that what they thought was victory in the center had become spears appearing at their flanks. At the same time, from one side came the thunder of horses. Our heavier cavalry shattered one Roman, winged quickly, then wheeled around toward the rear. On the other side, the Numidians had kept Rome's cavalry off balance, drawing them away, denying them a clean fight. Dust swallowed the field, direction vanished, shouts in different languages collided. The Roman mass began to compress itself. When the order came for us to stop yielding and push forward again, I saw a Roman infantryman's eyes up close. It wasn't simple fear, it was the question, why can't I move? Because men behind him were pushing, men in front were stuck, and the sides were closing. The plain of Cannae was flat, yet for Rome it became a room with walls. Over the next hours, the rhythm of battle changed. What began as a broad line became a tightening circle. Tactically, it was brilliance. For a soldier inside it, it was a place where breathing grew difficult. Under the high sun, looking out from the edge of my shield, I saw the same structure everywhere. The Africans' disciplined ring. Cavalry, pressure at the back, and in the middle, the Roman blocks squeezed until they could no longer function. Hannibal himself was near the center. From where I was, I often saw him not enthroned on a horse, but moving on foot, close enough that you felt his presence. The message was clear. If the center breaks, everything breaks. Orders traveled by horns and runners. Each unit recognized its own commander's signals. While we withdrew earlier, the smallest panic, a man stumbling, could have started a chain that destroyed us. So we pulled back, shoulder to shoulder, shields tight, whispering the only instruction that mattered: not faster, steadier. At one point, the wind shifted so dust blew into Roman faces. Grit slipped behind their shield rims, stung eyes, turned vision into pain. We had sun and wind behind us. It's an invisible advantage until you see what a moment of blindness does to formation. In war, a fraction of a second becomes a step becomes a gap becomes collapse. As the circle tightened, Rome's command voice disappeared. Early on, you could still sense consuls and tribunes trying to direct. Later, it became a single roar without shape. Our side, oddly, held a layered coherence. Africans anchored with discipline. Cavalry worked with its own tempo. The center followed Hannibal's design. Rome's famed order, under compression, turned against it. Our mixed army, different cultures, different styles, proved strangely more resilient inside chaos. I saw standards shift, Roman markers pushed backward. A standard is an army's eye. When the eye moves, the body loses itself. And in that moment, the outcome of Cannae was being written no longer by sharper swords, but by a mass that could no longer breathe. Chapter 4. The battle ends, the land remains. As late afternoon came and the ringing of blades faded, the first thing I noticed wasn't silence. It was the weight of silence. The dust that had risen all day began to settle back onto the ground. The wind softened. The sun slid west, and the Aufidus started to shine again as if nothing had happened. Only then could you read the plain like a map, where we yielded, where the wings turned, where the circle shut. The earth eroded in footprints, snapped spear shafts, broken shield rims. Our units immediately reformed order, because the greatest danger after victory is dispersion. Cavalry swept the area, Numidians pursued those who ran. Infantry caught breath, then shifted into the work that follows every battle, collecting the wounded, sorting captured weapons, counting horses, restoring command structure. Here's a documentary truth. A battle is not only the moment of impact. The hours afterward test an army's discipline. Officers shout, scribes count, men regroup under banners. This is where a victory either hardens into reality or dissolves into chaos. Rome's losses were enormous. I did not count numbers. No one can count cleanly in Kianta, that kind of aftermath. But I saw the shape of it. Rome's mass had broken, and the survivors, searching for a way out, had blocked one another. I saw Roman officers captured with their insignia still on them. Others tried to reach the riverbank. The Aufidus, which gave water at dawn, became a narrow throat at dusk. Geography does not care who's brave. Hannibal did not celebrate like a man drunk on triumph. When I saw him at a distance through moving bodies, his face carried neither joy nor rage. It was more like what needed to happen, happened. Commanders conferred. Envoys from nearby cities came and went. The treatment of captives was debated. I heard someone say, "Now we march on Rome." Another voice, harder, pressed for immediate action. Hannibal was cautious, not from fear, but from arithmetic. The road to Rome is not only distance, it is passes, supply lines, rear security, siege capability, every factor inside the same sentence. That night, the campfires burned, different languages mixed again. Gauls murmured victory songs. Africans did not loosen their watch discipline. Iberians, like me, grew quiet. I set my shield down and looked up. In Apulia's dry summer air, the stars appear sharp, almost harsh. And I thought, today, something in Rome's fate cracked. But something in mine shifted too. War was no longer a story told somewhere far away. It was a fact embedded in my hands. The next morning, I looked across the plain again. Cannae had been a stage of slaughter. Now it lay like farmland once more. That is one of the most unsettling things. The land forgets quickly. The river keeps flowing. The wind lifts dust again. The sun burns again. What remains is not the soil's memory, but the human memory. And I have carried it into this moment where I'm telling you. There was also the bookkeeping of victory. Heat makes smells heavier, flies multiply. Thirst returns as a problem immediately. That's why the first day after battle is relentless work. Recover your wounded, separate and store weapons. Recount horses. Reassign units. Many Roman shields lay on the ground. Some Africans valued Roman-style equipment. The broad shields and certain patterns suited tight formations. War is practical before it is poetic. And there was another scene. The Roman elites and officers identified by their rings. The gold ring was a marker of status. Rings were gathered, counted, later sent to Carthage as proof of scale. I didn't collect them myself, but I saw sacks filling and men taking tallies. History is sometimes written in small circles of metal. Then came the political tide. After Cannae, envoys from nearby cities arrived because they had seen Rome was not invincible. At the camp's entrance, representatives waited with the same question. Do we remain with Rome or move toward Hannibal? And that question, too, was shaped by geography. How far they were from Rome, whether winter would close mountain routes, where food could be drawn from, and the question of marching on Rome. On a map, it looks like a line. In life, it is hills, rivers, choke points, and supply problems. Our army excelled at field battle. A siege is a different art. Long logistics, heavy machines, secure rear lines. Hannibal's caution was not weakness. It was the ability to recognize the limits of even the greatest victory. On the day we left Cannae, I paused at the riverbank and watched the Aufidus move. The water looked as if it washed everything away, but I knew better. What happened there would remain a wound in Rome's history, and for us, both pride and burden. Because great victories load a soldier's shoulders not only with spoil, but with memory. If this story pulled you into the dust, the wind, and the decision points of Cannae, please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to like the video. Your support genuinely matters if we're going to keep making more of these. Until the next story.